music even sounds outer spacey, doesn't it? Do you hear that? That whistling sound?
Picture this. A massive vault of secrets, locked up tight for decades, suddenly just thrown wide open. In May 2026, the global landscape of aerospace security experienced a total seismic shift. Under a historic executive directive, the Department of War released tens of gigabytes of highly classified, completely unresolved anomalous data directly to the public. They called it the Pursu file dump. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're tracking this unprecedented release of government secrets. It's a journey that actually begins right here on Earth, deep in the uncharted, abyssal depths of our oceans, and takes us all the way up into the profound, absolute isolation of the moon's far side. Okay, let's dive into this. Our flight path tracks 5 crucial areas today. Section 1 is the Pursu secret files. Then we'll look at transmedium ocean anomalies, the Apollo 10 music, geometric lunar shadows, and finally, the Aristarchus enigma.
Section 1, the Pursu secret files. Let's start with the catalyst for all of this, a massive interagency effort spanning the White House, the FBI, NASA, and the Department of War's AARO division.
The sheer volume of raw data they pushed out is just staggering. Across 3 massive historical tranches in just the first few months, the government dumped thousands of megabytes of documents and over 10 gigabytes of video. And we're not just talking about boring paperwork here. It's high-definition military infrared sensor data, historical FBI memos, and raw audio of totally unexplained encounters.
And man, the public was ready for it. Shortly after the official war.gov/UFO portal launch, it recorded over 1 billion hits worldwide. Let that sink in for a second. 1 billion people clamoring to see the raw, unfiltered data of unresolved military and space encounters.
Section 2, Transmedium Ocean Anomalies. While the first release definitely set the stage, it was the highly anticipated release 02 that truly shifted the paradigm, revealing unbelievable anomalies right here on Earth.
Within that second tranche, analysts found shocking documentation of transmedium UAPs. Now, these are unidentified objects that don't just fly, they move seamlessly from the vacuum of space through Earth's atmosphere and then just plunge straight into the abyssal depths of the ocean. It totally defies known physics, no discernible change in speed, no structural integrity issues. The second release actually contained videos of these spherical objects operating directly within those dark, crushing ocean waters. It's wild to think about what's hiding down there.
So the crucial point here is that this specific tranche of data didn't just leak out of nowhere. It was actually forced into the light by direct congressional pressure. Representative Ana Paulina Luna sent a letter straight to the Secretary of War demanding the release of dozens of unresolved AARO videos. Because of that, we got this unprecedented evidence of physical objects interacting with our deepest oceans, and maybe even more intriguingly, some incredibly bizarre audio files from deep space.
Section 3, the Apollo 10 music. Leaving the oceans behind, we are ascending to the moon. Specifically, going back to May 1969, during the Apollo 10 mission. Now, Apollo 10 was the final dress rehearsal right before the historic Apollo 11 moon landing. Astronauts Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan were orbiting the moon. And when they passed over the far side, they entered a period of total radio blackout. For about an hour, the physical mass of the moon completely blocked all communication with Earth. Picture that profound, absolute isolation. Just them, deep space, and deafening silence. And right in the middle of that dead silence, their headsets suddenly lit up. I want to read you the exact declassified transcript of what happened next. Gene Cernan says, "You hear that? That whistling sound? Boy, that sure is weird music. Sounds outer spacey." To which John Young later replied, "We're gonna have to find out about that. Nobody will believe us." What we have here is a fascinating contrast. On one hand, you have the severe psychological reaction of the isolated astronauts. They were deeply puzzled, yet they kept it totally quiet for fear that reporting space music might cast doubt on their mental stability and get them grounded from future flights. On the other hand, you have the grounded scientific reality. NASA engineers and historians explain this as a simple instrumental phenomenon. The VHF radios of the separate command and lunar modules were just interacting, creating an electromagnetic beat that happened to sound like a whistling synthesizer. However, It's absolutely worth noting that Apollo 15 astronaut Al Worden formally disagreed with the radio theory, pointing out that highly trained test pilots wouldn't get spooked by standard radio feedback. Section 4, Geometric Lunar Shadows. From strange audio anomalies in orbit, we now descend down to the actual surface of the moon to examine some intense visual anomalies captured on camera.
The Pursuit files released a highly controversial 1972 photo from Apollo 17 that showed 3 distinct triangular dots in the lunar sky, which obviously fueled intense debates. But today, we don't just rely on grainy 1970s film anymore. We have the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera, or LROC, which maps the lunar surface at an absolutely staggering 0.5 meters per pixel. And what this incredibly powerful camera has captured has driven the internet completely wild. Massive, perfectly geometric shadows that look exactly like giant pyramids or obelisks sitting right there on the moon's surface.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because geology actually gives us a perfectly logical, albeit mind-bending, explanation for these shapes. Take the famous Plato crater, for instance. Billions of years ago, a massive asteroid impact hits the moon. This causes a colossal 23.4-kilometer-wide slump block of rock to just break free from the crater rim. So when the late afternoon sun hits that jagged rock at a really steep 77-degree incidence angle, it casts this incredibly long, perfectly straight triangular shadow straight across the crater floor. It looks artificial for sure, but it is purely the result of harsh angular lighting on naturally shattered rock.
Section 5, the Aristarchus Enigma. But, not all lunar mysteries can be easily chalked up to shadows and lighting. For our final section today, we are visiting the absolute most scientifically active and puzzling region of the moon. We need to talk about TLPs, transient lunar phenomena. These are short-lived changes in light, color, or overall appearance right on the moon's surface. For 400 years, astronomers have reported seeing sudden flashes, red glows, and thick mists on what we thought was a completely dead moon. It was heavily debated until 1969, when the Apollo 11 astronauts themselves looked down from orbit and visually confirmed a glowing anomaly on the surface, finally validating centuries of historical observations. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where these events happen. When you plot over 3,000 historical TLP observations, it reveals something incredible. These flashes and glows are not randomly scattered. They are highly, highly concentrated around the edges of lunar maria and deep impact craters. In fact, if you really look at the data, a massive 60% of all recorded TLP reports occur in just one specific area, the Aristarchus crater and its surrounding plateau. That is a massively disproportionate concentration of activity for just a single crater, proving that whatever is causing this is intensely localized to this young, geologically complex region. So what is actually happening down there in Aristarchus? Well, modern geophysics has given us a completely fascinating answer. As the moon orbits us, Earth's immense gravitational tidal forces actually flex and stretch the lunar crust. This stretching opens up deep, deep fractures. Trapped gases from ancient volcanic activity, specifically radioactive radon-222, escape to the surface in an event called outgassing. As the radon naturally decays, it emits alpha particles, which then generates a visible cold luminescence. The moon isn't entirely dead at all. It's literally still exhaling. From outgassing craters and perfectly geometric shadows to transmedium spheres plunging straight into our abyssal oceans, the data we've explored today is literally just the tip of the iceberg. The Department of War has openly acknowledged that tens of millions of classified files are still waiting to be reviewed under the Pursue initiative. We have solid scientific explanations for some of these phenomena, but so much remains totally unresolved. It really makes you wonder, as more of this data is declassified on a rolling basis, what other anomalies, both terrestrial and cosmic, are still waiting to be brought into the light? Keep questioning, keep exploring, and we'll see you on the next Explainer.